The 21-year-old gang member will be seen behind bars for nearly 4 decades as he organizes a double murder and flees the country, only to tell the judge that he's going to murder him when he gets out of jail. This story takes place in Islington, an inner city in the area of North London. Despite Islington being known for its rich history, it will have its fair share of gang violence and will see many murders and stabbings over the years. One prominent gang based in the area of Islington is ER14, and this gang will house the main person of this video, Lorik Lupqi, who will be the mastermind behind the brutal killing of 2 young men, whilst leaving another teenager with life-changing injuries. You see, Lorik Lupqi was heavily involved in gang activity from a very young age, and was no stranger to being in trouble with the police. Like many vulnerable teenagers in London, he was groomed into dealing and selling drugs to make money. Lorik, who would now start going by the name Els, would be reported missing by his parents back in 2018, after not returning home for several days. The police will put out missing person reports all over social media to try and find the 14-year-old Lorik Lupqi, but he will later return home after it was found that he had gone to the countryside to sell drugs. This kid was a serious problem and will continue being a nuisance to the public all throughout his teenage years, as it said that he had 18 previous convictions for 33 offences. These included offences of dishonesty, drug offences, possession of weapons and knives in a public place, and offences of violence, which would end up putting him on tag. This wouldn't stop Lorik, because what he goes on to do next will have him serving one of the longest sentences in the UK. On the 29th of June 2023, Lorik got a tip that his rivals were filming a music video on the Eltham estate. He then messaged his girlfriend saying, "The ops are outside." She advised him to remain inside, but Lorik wasn't trying to hear it, so he decided to contact his close friend and gang member, Jason Furtado. Together, Lorik and Jason arranged for 3 men, Abel Chunda, Xavier Papone, and Eden Clark, to be delivered by taxi to the estate where the music video was being filmed. Lorik booked the taxi for the 3 men from the Canberra Holton Road area and told them to make sure to come prepared and have weapons on them. The group got into the taxi all blacked out, with balaclavas covering their face and concealing large machetes. By the time the taxi arrived at the Eltham estate, the filming had ended and many of the members had already left the area, but the group would still go hunting, looking for anyone to kill. Within a couple of minutes, they came across 3 young men, Leonardo, Reid, Klevi, Shekaj, and Abdullah. Witnesses described seeing someone crouching down wearing a balaclava, moving towards the group with a large knife. A friend of Leonardo shouted, "Man on," trying to warn him, but the group rushed towards the 3 members and started stabbing them repeatedly. Leonardo was stabbed in the chest and the wound cut through his left lung and a major blood vessel, causing very severe blood loss. Klevi was stabbed in the back, his wound pierced his left lung and deeply into his body. Abdullah fell whilst trying to get away and was struck with machetes numerous times, twice to the right side, once to the head and another to the right knee. The gang left these 3 teenagers lifeless and bleeding on the street, as they left the scene with machetes covered in blood. Police and ambulance would arrive minutes later after multiple calls about a gang fight happening in the area. The 3 victims would be rushed to the hospital, but 15-year-old Leonardo Reid and 23-year-old Klevi Shekaj would not make it. They died from severe blood loss, whilst Abdullah managed to pull through, but said that he now has serious life-changing injuries because of a punctured lung, 2 broken ribs, and severe trauma to the head. From the moment the taxi pulled up to the attackers leaving, the whole spree took just 5 minutes. The same taxi was used as a getaway vehicle, but this time with Lorik Lupqi on board. The police will now launch an investigation to hunt down the people involved in the killing and attempted murder of the 3 boys. Police will view hundreds of hours of CCTV from the area and started tracking phone data. This phone data showed that there were 50 short phone calls between the group in the 2 hours before the murders. After the attack, the four went to Abel Chunda's house and called the other organizer, Jason Furtado. They spoke about what to do next and how they were going to get rid of the weapons and clothes, and the police were able to hear this whole conversation. It's safe to say that these criminals weren't the sharpest tools in the shed, because they left a trail of evidence all caught on CCTV, leading the police straight to their hideout. Abel Chunda and Jason Furtado were arrested 4 days later on the 3rd of July 2023. The police were now looking for the other suspects who were trying to cover their tracks. Eden Clark, after realizing the police were after him, attempted to evade arrest by traveling to the Suffolk coast and changing his appearance. He was trying to get a new identity and leave the country completely, but he was eventually located and arrested on the 12th of July 2023. The police would do some more digging, and the name Els kept coming up in all the different evidence as the mastermind behind the whole attack. But it won't take long for them to put together that Els was Lorik Lupqi, and he was the one who ordered the taxi for the men to go out and stab their ops. The police will now go looking for Lorik, but this is when the investigation will come to a halt. It turns out Lorik, who was 19 years old at the time, removed his electronic tag and fled the country shortly after the murders. He illegally travelled to Kosovo, his country of origin, and he had sent messages to his girlfriend telling her not to wait for him. Lorik would go into hiding in Kosovo to avoid arrest. The Met Police, in coordination with the National Crime Agency and Kosovan authorities, engaged in an international operation to locate Lorik, who was wanted for murder in the UK. 1 year later, after Lorik turned 20 years old, he was eventually captured by the police in Kosovo and extradited to the UK. On the 12th of November 2024, he was arrested at Luton Airport upon his return and taken straight into custody. Another suspect, Xavier Papone, was also arrested around the same time, following some serious evidence which I'll touch on later. With all suspects and evidence collected, all that was left to do now was for all 5 suspects to stand trial and answer for their crimes. The prosecution presented the case to the jury and showed evidence that on the evening of the 29th of June 2023, Lorik sent a text to his girlfriend, which he said the ops were outside, meaning rival gang members were present. Later phone logs showed that a taxi booking was made and that Lorik was present when the taxi arrived to pick up his 3 chosen attackers. The departure and return of the taxi formed the key part of the sequence of events, and the judge emphasized that the transportation itself was part of the plan. You see, it's important to note that whilst evidence was being presented in court, Lorik and Xavier were causing trouble, with constant outbursts in court, fights in the dock, and difficult behaviour coming to and leaving the court. It seemed as if the men were unbothered by everything going on, and had no respect for the victims' families who were present in the court. In terms of the serious evidence I was talking about in relation to Xavier Papone, it turns out that lyrics were found in a drill song written the day after the murders. These lyrics glorified the murders and made reference to elements of the attack which could only be known to those involved. In these lyrics, he also referenced how Leonardo and Klevi were not involved in gang activity, and shortly after the murders, he also changed his social media name to X3, referencing the number of people he stabbed on that day. Following a 15-week trial, all 5 members were found guilty of murdering 15-year-old Leonardo Reid and 23-year-old Klevi Shekaj, along with the attempted murder of Abdullah Abdullahia. Lorik Lupqi was found to be the instigator and organizer of the whole attack. He ordered a taxi and instructed the other 3 gang members to come armed. The court heard his long record of convictions and how he was on a suspended sentence when these murders took place. Lorik was found guilty of both the murders and attempted murder and was handed a life sentence with a minimum term of 39 years behind bars. The added years was because he fled the country and orchestrated the attack. Lorik refused a lawyer in court, and as he was being sent down in handcuffs, He told the judge to suck his mum and said, quote, "When I come out, I'm going to kill you." In relation to Jason Furtado, the judge also described him as an organizer. His role was important, but somewhat less than Lorik's. He was found guilty of all charges and was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 37 years. The three men who carried out the attack, Abel Chunda, Xavier Papone, Eden Clark, were all found guilty of murder and attempted murder. The court found that they had left the taxi armed with machetes and all took part in the killing. Abel and Eden were given life sentences with a minimum term of 38 years. Xavier had additional crimes after the murders. He was found to have been involved in the supply of Class A drugs and in possession of a bladed article on separate occasions. He pled guilty to those additional offences and they were taken into account at sentencing. He was given 37 years behind bars. The mother of the 15-year-old boy who was killed by the attackers said, quote, "I will forever carry a sense of desperate loss that I will never accept or understand. The trauma, the scars, the sense of horror that will never go away. There will never be closure for me or my family. I lost a son, my children lost a brother. Whilst everyone goes about their day-to-day life, me and my family will never be able to live a normal life." It's reported in the court transcripts that the three victims were completely innocent and had no gang involvement. So the fact that these lunatics took the lives of people who weren't even their ops just makes this case even more upsetting. Lorik has no remorse for what he did and was even threatening the judge in court. These clowns are people you should not be looking up to. He's thrown his whole life away and is nearly doing 4 decades behind bars, all for a gang that will forget he even exists after a few years. All 5 of these criminals would be lucky to even touch another woman's hand again. But with all this being said, please go put your energy into something that will actually benefit you in life, and drop a comment if I missed anything, and I'll see you lot in the next one. God bless.